You're recording in progress.
There you
Awesome. Hello, Marcy. You're
go.
this.
Hello, Chad.
Hello. This is why I love doing the Nobodies or Somebody's podcast. I'm the nobody, and I'm definitely talking to a somebody. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy we're doing this.
Yeah, it's about time. Of course, you've been on, like
Hmm
I said before, Paravice City, episode number 213. Self promotion, go back in the archives.
That was fun.
Mixcloud.com. Search Paravice City, episode 213. It was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that. We got to do that again, too, hopefully.
Yeah, I'd love
Fingers
to.
crossed. You said you come
hmm
back. Hope I didn't embarrass
Oh, I'd
myself
love
too
to.
much.
No, it's fun. I got to learn all new music. It was
Yeah,
good.
and brought some good music too, of course. But this is all about you. And well, you don't play music, or maybe you do, but you dance
Mhm.
to some music. You have a musical soul. Can't wait to hear more
Oh,
about that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
we touched on it a bit in the Paravice City show, and of course, I've known this about you, and you put out there along for a long time now. You have written a book. It's your first book, right?
I wrote another book. It was a smaller book. It was for parents. It was a guide to raising kids with healthy body image, and that was
Right.
very. I mean, I have some of that in the new book, but that was very much like a guidebook for parents, a handbook on how to raise kids with healthy body image and self esteem. And this is not that.
This is not that, of course. What we're
This is
talking
not that.
about, what we're talking about is your book that's out there now, The Good Stripper. I mean, you need, I mean, what could be a bad stripper? I mean, there's possibilities, right? Right to the top. But it's not a book that you might think it's about if you're listening to just the title. It's really your story from where you kind of were maybe 20, 25 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and now where you are, where you are now in your life. So it's a good life story, I believe, right?
Right. And it's not even though where I am now. That's the thing. It actually starts from when I'm quite young and how I got to where I was and the places it took me to and the things that I did. And then it ends, honestly, about 10 years ago. So, Lord, I'd love to say that it's
Wow.
it's so normal now, which it is not. I should write another book. But
Yes, you
but
should.
it spans a bunch of decades and jam packed with just stuff that I kept hidden for a really long time.
So would you say it's like an autobiography kind of? Because you said it
It's
starts when you're
exactly.
really
It
young.
is. It is.
What
It's a memoir. It is.
what
It
point did
starts.
it start? Like how old were you when
I'm
you
gonna say under 10 because I wrote something about my parents, and my parents split up when I was 10. So it starts like just before that. And not a lot. Like I don't it's not like this long drawn out thing of like, and then I was 7 and I went, it's not like
how big
it's
is this
just,
book?
you know, exactly. It's not big. But it's because a lot of things happened. So it's, there's not a lot of fluff in there. Like I did a book club. I love doing book clubs where, they've read the book and then you go and they ask you all these questions
Right.
because everyone always has questions. And there was a woman who said to me, she goes, okay, I didn't finish it because I wanted to make sure you were okay. Now that I see you're okay, I'm gonna finish it, or I've had people say, you get us every time because the chapter will almost be ending and it'll be like, okay. And then I'll end it with, and then, or
Like the
who
hook, like
thought,
something to
or
keep them
yeah.
coming
And then
back.
it's
Yeah.
like, damn it. They've got to the next one. So it starts young because things got crazy for me young. So that's when it started. And then I ended it pretty much when I left my marriage. So there's a good chunk of time in there.
hmm Did you have somebody write with you? Is this just your words, pen to paper? Or is it all by yourself? How did you?
Yeah, no, it was all by myself. I
Wow.
didn't ever think I could. I always thought it would be cool, but I didn't think I could for a lot of reasons. I didn't think I could write a book. And then it was I shouldn't write a book, and people really wished I wouldn't write a book. And then you know what? I had some friends, a couple of friends who knew some of my story. Nobody knew all of my story, and they were encouraging me to write it because they felt that it could help people, right? And I'm thinking, well, I've messed up so many times. How can I help people? But I say this, but like I was seeing how many times I fell down, and they were seeing how many times I picked myself up, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we tend to focus on what we
How many
didn't
times you
do,
fell
or
down
the
or falling
mistakes
down
rather
or how many
than,
mistakes, how many
yeah.
learning opportunities, which is what they should be.
Well,
Hopefully.
we see our weaknesses, we don't see our strengths sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where it was a few things when I was reaching a certain age, and I felt like I had these secrets that I carried shame around them from stuff I'd done a long time ago. And I felt like sometimes if I met somebody new, I'm like, do I tell them? How much do I tell them? Do I have to tell them? When do I tell them? What are they going to think if I tell them? Or, I have kids and I thought, oh, what are they going to think if they find out certain things? It was like this horrible fear. I would do TV things about the body image. And I thought, okay,
Mhm.
what if somebody sees me on there and they know things and then, all these
Yeah.
crazy things in your head. And I got to a point where I'm like, what am I doing to myself? Like, why am I'm judging myself, right? I'm so worried about what other people are going to say. Meanwhile, I'm the one that's judging myself. And as I said, I was turning 50. And I thought, how long am I going to wait? Like, there are way more years behind me than ahead of me. When am I going to let go of that stuff and just kind of free myself of it, forgive myself for stuff and just move on? And I was like, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it. And I really had to wait until I was okay with myself because I knew
Hmm.
or I felt that if I released it and if it got published and people read it, I felt there are going to be people who are going to hate me or look at me differently or whatever. And I had to be in a good place with myself or that would crush me.
Right.
Right. So I had to be standing on solid ground. And I had just gotten to this point where I was. And I thought, okay, so if people turn their backs on me, that's okay. What I realized was the hard part was getting through some of the things I went through. So being judged on how I went through them, that's not going to hurt me. The tough part was surviving it. If you're going to
Hmm.
judge me for how I survived, well, that's on you. That's not my problem.
Right.
And then I just wrote it and it took me 7 months because that's all I
Wow.
did. I just wrote. I remember I was renting
Sat
a
down,
those.
let it all come out, just let
I
it flow.
did.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
no, you know what? I wrote, started to write, gave it to a friend's agent who was like, no, this isn't very good. Because I was kind of just journaling and I had to think about it. And then I had to kind of approach it in a different way. And I just really just wrote. And there were times when there were certain chapters that were difficult to be back in. And I didn't want to be back there for too long. So I would write through the night, just into the morning so that I could just get through it in one day
Move
and then
on.
put it away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Move
wrote it in
past it.
7
Yeah.
months and then put together a book proposal and sent it off to a publisher and they liked it, which was crazy. So crazy.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. Great. Did you have to make any kind of changes, not retractions, but any kind of, I don't know, changing names or take stuff out or have to rethink some certain things? Did you have any, like, did you have a lawyer look at stuff like that in case
Oh
somebody came
yeah.
back?
Oh, 100%. So,
How
well,
big
first,
was that process?
well, not that bad. I had a friend who's written a bunch of books, and what she said to me was, write as if no one's going to read it. So just write, don't edit yourself,
That's
because
what
I
I
think
do.
that's what a lot of people do. But
Yeah.
that's the thing is a lot of people write. If I had written like and really thought about it and thought, okay, what are my kids going to think, or what is this person going to think? I wouldn't have written anything.
Right.
So you write it, and then you can go back and take stuff out. But I didn't take anything out. What happened was so with the publisher, when I met with him, it was great because he said it was like 80% done, which was great. So there were a few things. There's like you can't be too attached to your story. I just knew that there were things I needed to say, and I wanted to be 100% true to my memory. Right,
Right.
that's the best
This
you
is
can
how
do.
you remember it. This is how you see it.
Yeah,
Maybe some people might see
right.
it differently if they were there, but this is your
W-
recollection of what happened. It's not
Exactly.
doesn't have to be 100%. It's just this is Marcy's truth.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
there are things that I kind of thought were interesting, but my publisher said, no, this chapter has to go. And I was fine with that. There's nothing major. A few kind of chapter titles he wanted to change, or a few things he wanted to for me to kind of expand on. But when it came to like people, what's funny is because people say, oh, could I be in your next book? And I'm like, nobody wants to be like, you don't want to be or
Depends on
I'll
how
say
you
if I
want to
use
be in it.
well, that's it. I'll say if I use your real name, you're good.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned my sister, I mentioned, certain people, they're good. But anyone who has I either gave nicknames or I changed the names. And it was not just that. I mean, that's the thing. I actually got a call from my publisher very close to when we were going to put it out. And he called me and he said, I'm terrified. He showed it to somebody. He's like, he was afraid people, because when you write a memoir, the thing is somebody will always want to sue you. Because if you're writing a story that this somebody probably you've had some conflict there,
This is a
right?
character in your life who's been a part of your life at
It's
some
and
point.
some people
Yeah.
aren't good. Yeah. So you don't write it and make it so that they don't want to. You make it so that they can't.
Right.
So So that was the thing. So I tried to change as much as I could. Again, of course, names, but even things like you wouldn't even think, like I moved to a different part of the country. I couldn't say exactly where. I had to kind of generalize it just in case certain thing. When I
Why
took
is that
top,
though? If you didn't mention anyone specific, like let's say you moved to, I don't know, Japan, you couldn't say you moved to
right?
Japan.
No, no. Like,
Why
you
is
know, I'd
that?
have to say different, just because anything that maybe could connect, oh, somebody who knew me there, who would know the person that I was with, who might make the connection of, like,
But
it's
what
so,
could
I
they sue
couldn't,
you on? Like it's not libel. You're not
because it's
talking
trying
about.
to, well, but no, but if I'm saying things and somebody just feels that they don't look good in it and feels like, even though I changed their name, well, somebody's obviously going to know, even though I mean, you can only do so much, but
I don't mean to
it was,
challenge. I don't mean to challenge, but I just want to ask. So let's say, oh, this for a year I moved to Japan, and then you went on to something else. You couldn't say that, and you
so
didn't
let's
mention a
say,
person.
but you do, like, let's say this is just, I'm just making something up here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you had a business partner and
Mm.
you moved to Japan with your business partner, and then your business partner stole from you and took everything from you and messed up your place and, you know, went to jail. You couldn't, if you want to pretend like that, you don't want your ex-business partner to get mad at you or to try to sue you. So somebody might go, oh, I know, Chad moved to Japan with so and so. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
somebody might make the connection. Whereas if you say you went somewhere else, then they'll be like, oh no, he moved to Japan with so and so, not, it's just an
it has to be a
extra
place you've actually
level.
never been that nobody can say, nobody
Not
can
necessarily, like
verify.
you would say, like I could say West Coast or East Coast, but you couldn't get specific. I mean, it was probably fine, but
Wow,
just really trying. Like yeah, we were really careful,
that's
and there were
insane.
things,
Did that make
there were
you want
things.
to change your mind? Did that make you think it's
No,
all
because it
worth it?
wasn't. No, because it wasn't anything. Like, it wasn't anything important.
Right.
You know, things like that weren't a big deal. It's everything that was like really to the story. Like there were things I thought that they were going to make me sort of censor,
Yeah.
and I was glad they didn't, because there are things that I really wanted in there. And then I remember getting the call. Like, my publisher said he had given it to a lawyer who was like the top in this type of thing.
Right.
And when we got the call that it had passed through, that was great, because then I thought, even if people want to sue me, they 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 wouldn't have a leg to stand on. You know, I felt good with that, and he
Yeah, it
felt
was
good with
locked up.
that.
It was locked in. Yeah.
It was okay. We'd gone through all the things, but yeah, no, it's kind of
So
a
that's pretty,
it's
wow,
kind of
that's
a
pretty
crazy
intense.
thing.
That's
Yeah,
insane. I'll keep
yeah,
that in mind if I ever go to write a book. I'll
exactly,
just lie about
exactly.
everything like I do in my life anyway.
Just
Just make it
change it.
all up. I was a rock star in Antarctica.
Well, then you
Nobody
just
knows me
say
there.
based on a true story, right? You can
Based
get a
on a true
lot.
story.
You
That's
can
even
get
better
away
for
with
a
a
movie.
lot. Yeah,
It's my movie, Vice fucking life.
there you go.
um, what I wanted so did anybody actually come after you at some point anyways, like friends, family, did not maybe to even sue you, but did people kind of question your book? Did you have any kind of negative feedback on your book? A positive is easy. I hope you got that
Uh,
too, but did
yeah.
anybody
I
come
mean,
back on
I
you?
won't. I did have one person. I'm not going to get specific about it,
Right.
but
Wait, yeah,
and it was, yeah, I can't obviously, but it hadn't even come out yet. I just announced that it was going to come out in like a week,
right.
and so that nobody had read it, nobody knew it was in it, but they were kind of preemptively pissed off at me. So they tried to trash me a little bit publicly, but
Can you
it didn't
say if it
really.
was family or a colleague at least,
It
or
no, it wasn't family.
okay.
It was somebody related, somebody attached to somebody else who was. They weren't even in my life.
Oh wow.
They were, yeah, friends with somebody else who was in it.
Okay.
So it was a weird,
That's weird, yeah.
yeah. But you know, it then it died down, and I mean, you know, I mean, the people who I really thought would sort of come to me won't mention it to me. I would love to have a conversation with certain people. I would love to, like, let's talk about stuff, but they are not interested. So
People that are in the
I
book,
don't push.
like
Yeah. A couple of people. There are other people who I know didn't read it because they contacted me just like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. And I'm like,
what have
oh
you been
God,
up
if
to? I
they
wrote a book. You have a book?
exactly. I'm like,
Yeah.
if they had read
What
it, they
else you
wouldn't be
doing?
contacting me. They wouldn't be contacting me for sure.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
about
it's pretty funny.
your kids and your immediate family? What did they think about it?
Well, my kids were funny because, like I said, they knew I was writing a book, but they assumed it
And
was
they're in
women
it.
empowerment. And
Yeah.
no, they didn't know that. They just thought it was, because I'd written a lot about self-esteem and all that. So they thought
Right.
it was that kind of.
But they're in this
And
book though, obviously.
they're in it, but they're not like majorly, like there's nothing, I don't share anything
You
major
mentioned
about
all
them.
my kids. I was out with my kid or whatever. My kids, my this
Yeah,
that,
kind of
right?
thing.
Okay, I
Yeah, but
gotcha.
I don't sort of talk. Yeah, I don't tell their
Specifically
stories,
about their
kind of thing.
stories. Yeah, okay, I got you.
No, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. More sort of about how I feel at certain times as a mom, doing what I was doing, things like that.
right.
Um, but with them, the funny thing was, so I got the book deal right before COVID. Like I'm talking February before the March that everything shut
What the
down.
hell? Yeah. Wow.
So we didn't know, I didn't know when it was going to come out, if it was going to come out, if there were going to be bookstores, library, like we didn't know what was happening. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell them I about it if like then it didn't come out and I told them about it for nothing.
You said a book's coming out. Oh no,
No, I didn't know.
it's
Like
not
I just said
happening.
I'm writing one and then so then a week before when we knew okay, it's coming out and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tell, especially because the title says The Good Stripper and they didn't
Yeah.
know that I'd ever done it. So I'm like, no, I should tell them because
They didn't know you were a stripper.
no, because I'd done it for a few months and they were little. But there's other stuff in there too. There's
Right.
some stuff that
Yeah.
but the title alone, I mean, yeah, people if anyone asked them about it, I didn't want them to find out,
You didn't want
you
them to
know,
read the title and be like, "What? Why is it called that,
what
mom?" And then you have to tell
yeah.
them something. That
Well,
was my
yeah, no, I
question. More,
wanted
like, it
them to be
sounded rude, but it
prepared.
was more like, well, they didn't know previous
No,
mom's
no,
life.
right. No, I wanted them to be prepared. And they were,
Right.
I'm trying to think, they're probably in early 20s or something. Can't even remember. So I actually got together and it's so funny because the way I told them was I had a picture of the cover,
Right.
and the cover's a really kind of a baby stroller on a strip
Yeah,
on
I'm gonna post
stage
that
and
up here so people
with
can
a
see it at the
pole.
same
So it's
time.
pretty
In
intense. Yeah.
editing, I'm gonna have it go right there. It's gonna be perfect.
Okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So I just said, okay, write this book, and I don't even know how I told them, but then I just showed them the picture, and it's so funny because my oldest, he just looked at me and he went, "Do you want my opinion as a consumer or
Hmm.
as your son?" I'm like, "Really?" That was it. And he's like, "It's a great title. It's a great," and like they were both pretty unfazed. It's interesting, and I didn't get into the details of the book. Like I said to them, if there's anything you want to know, ask me and I'll tell you everything. Like anything you want to, but I didn't want to like, and here's my life. Like I didn't
Yeah,
want to like
and
that's not
blurt it
right. I
all
don't
out. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't want to do that. So, but they were very supportive of it. They said, you do you, you do what you got to do. And they're not going to read it. They haven't read it. They're not going to read it. And they don't need to read it. In some ways, I think they would probably understand things about me more. But there's things that I wrote that you don't want to read about your mother, and
True. How do you
I
feel about
totally get that. Sorry.
how do you feel about that though? Because it's something, it's your work, it's pouring out of your heart, it's from you, even though there's some content, yeah, you don't want to hear about your mom. But as a person, as a woman, or as anybody, do you want them to kind of, would you want them to, hear what you've had to say?
I
Hear your
think,
feelings.
honestly, I think there are things that, I lost my mom when I was 28, and we were very close, and I knew a lot of
Mhm.
stuff. But then, I was talking to just like a cousin of mine that I speak to like once a year, and sort of he knew some stuff from that side of the family. Anyway, there's stuff that I wish I had asked even more questions. I wish I had, and I think I was super supportive. And like I said, we were super, super close. But like, I think because I'm older now, there's only so much I could comprehend at 28 years old when I lost her, right? Now
Okay.
at 55, I understand her so much more. So God, I respect her. So I just wish I had more. And I would love, it would be great if they could understand me a bit more where I've come from. They saw sort of one version of me or whatever. But
Hmm.
again, but that's more through conversation. The book, they don't need to read the book. But at one point when this person that I knew was really kind of trashing me
Upset.
before the book came out, sort of
Yeah.
went to my kids about it. And
Really.
at that point, my oldest was like, "Okay, so what's going to be in the?" And he wanted to know, like he wanted to know stuff, and I said, "Okay, if you want to know." And I told him stuff, and he's very like intellectual. He said, "Okay." He goes, "It's interesting to hear about your parents as people, not just your
Yes.
parents."
That was my,
And
yeah, that was my
yeah,
question. Yeah.
and he was really, again, just like I said earlier, he was pretty unfazed by it. He's like, "I'm sorry that you went through the trauma." He goes, "Hearing about it isn't when people say, 'Oh, your kids are going to be so trauma, going to be so affected.'" No, he was fine. He's sorry I went through it, but anytime I did, when I first started doing podcasts, because when it came out, I did a lot, and I would, or any kind of interview, I would text them and say, I'm going to be talking about this. Is that okay? And he was more annoyed because my younger one wasn't really on social media, but my older one was. He was more annoyed with me that I kept asking him, you know?
Yeah.
He's like,
You
he's
don't have to
like,
remind me of it every
yeah, he's like,
every
no, not
time.
even that. It's not even remind me. He was just like, I had raised them to just be themselves and to not really care. They don't have to be anyone that they're not. They don't just do it. And they're
Live and
like
let live.
the same thing. Like, you cannot be anyone else than you are. So feel free. He goes, we will let you know. If you do something that we don't like, we'll let you know. But they were very, very supportive. And my younger son too. I mean, when I told him about stuff, his thing was, well, how long ago was this? Like when? Because I was always there. That's the thing. I mean, I was going days without sleeping, and I was not great to myself, but my priority was always them.
Right.
It was always so important to me that they felt loved every second, that they felt supported every second, that they felt safe every second. So I was there. So it wasn't like I told them and they went, "Oh, so that's where you were when you disappeared for 4 days." Like it wasn't that. They're like, "When did you? How you were always?"
Like, how
I
is
was
this
the I was the
possible? Like,
overprotective mother. I
yeah.
wasn't the cool mom. I
Where
was
do
the
you
one
have
that was
time
just
to do
there.
this? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Just because I did not sleep. And so
Huh.
so he was like, and I'm not gonna, he's like, I don't care. And I remember him saying, I don't mean I don't care. He's like, I just mean
It
like it's
doesn't
not,
bother me. Like, it doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how great is that? And they were the only ones. They were the only people whose opinions mattered. But even then, I got to a point where when I was writing it, when I thought, even if they did get mad at me for either doing stuff that I did or talking about things that I did,
Mhm.
I thought eventually they would get over it. And it was important for me to write it. It was just important for me. So again, that's what I was saying earlier was you have to be okay with it. But they were the only people who I really thought about, whose opinions mattered, who that's otherwise the only other kind of living relative that I have is my sister. And I was just concerned. She was concerned. I remember her saying at one point, she didn't want me to write it because she was afraid of backlash, kind of
Mhm.
thing. And then I did, and it was interesting because we're 7 years apart, and we'd been estranged for a few years, and then we're better. And
Is she older or younger than
she's
you?
7 years older. She's
Okay.
7 years older, and we've gone through some of the same stuff, and you act so differently when you're that far apart, and we're very different people. But
Right.
so my concern there was that when I talked about her, I wanted to make sure she was okay with how I spoke about her, and also the memories of like our parents. I wanted to make sure, like, is that okay? And she was great. She was great about everything. So that was good. So her also, she was important to me.
Do you think it
That she
brought
is important.
you guys closer together because of
I
this?
think it did because I remember her saying, "Oh, you do understand me." Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
she understood me more because again, we're living these big lives. I had my father wasn't great, my stepfather wasn't great. And we're dealing with the same things, but from a 10-year-old to a 17-year-old, it's completely different. And so I
Hmm.
know what I'm going through and she knows what she's going through, but I probably can't understand what she's going through and she can't understand what I'm going through. So as adults to talk about it, we understood it more. So I'm super grateful for her. Very
Oh,
grateful.
that's amazing. And again, not that it matters, but just interesting fact, your ex, were you with him at the time when you were doing this? And how did he feel about the, because I'm sure he's mentioned in the book at some point
He
too.
has not mentioned, yes, but he hasn't mentioned it to me.
He's never talked to you about it ever once.
Nope.
And you wrote it when you were with him or not with him?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Nope.
It
Nope.
was
Nope.
after. But
No.
were you doing this when you were with him?
Uh-huh.
And
Absolutely.
he knew about it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And he knew about the book and he knew it was coming out. He knew he was going to be mentioned in it.
Well,
You
I
weren't
didn't,
too,
he knew, no, I didn't, you know what? I've had people say, did you know, put it past him? Did you go over it with, no, I don't need to do that.
like him to sign off on it or check it or whatever. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
why? Why? I don't need to do that. Um, no, and I didn't, he knew I was reading a book. He'd asked me about it, and it was my story. Yes, of course he's in it. We were together for 24 years. He's going to be
Right.
in it. Um, and there's some good and there's some not so good, and I didn't write anything to make him look bad, or there were things I left out. There were things I softened, I think. There were great things. It's but he doesn't want to. I'd love to talk to him about it, but it's not. It's I don't. He doesn't have to. It's not. It's my story. If he wants to talk about it with me, I'd love that. If he never wants to talk about it, I respect that too.
Do you still have
We're
conversations with him? Do you still talk
well,
regular?
no, we're no, we're amicable. We split very amicably, but our kids
Right.
are older, and so we don't need to have like
Right.
to really. But when we see each other for the kids, it's great. Like we're very very like we got together before we split. We went out for a drink, and I said, I think I'm done. Are you done? He's like, yeah, I'm done. And we toasted, and
It's
we
very
actually
nice.
met.
That's
We
awesome though.
met well, yeah, we met when we signed our separation papers on our wedding anniversary at a bar. We signed and then we toasted.
You met
So
at a bar where you first
no,
got.
we first, but no, but we just met at a bar. We met at a bar and we had a shot and we signed our separation agreement on our wedding anniversary
Oh my
and
God.
toasted because it's kind of like, listen, we had a good run. I mean, it was
24
jam
years, you said,
packed.
right? Yeah.
It was jam packed. Like we lived, a million marriages in one. We had stuff that we put on ourselves. We had stuff that life threw at us. Like it was, and you're two different people, and that's why marriage is crazy. I don't understand. I understand how people do it. I really don't because I got married at 24 years old, and I think now that was so young. I think we met when I was 22, and
Well, there's
I
been
wasn't.
younger
Oh my God. Well,
and
I
older.
know. I know, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's
It's not for everybody.
and well, I just don't. I don't. Some people, the whole thing, right? You grow together, and which is great,
Mhm.
or you grow differently, but you support each other. I don't know. I just think that we went through very different versions of ourselves, and sometimes we were good, and sometimes we weren't, and again, life threw a lot of traumas at us, big traumas, and you can only do the best you can. And I guess we both did the best we could, and sometimes it was good, and sometimes it was really not good.
Yeah. Like
And
anything,
that's
like any relationship, right? Yeah.
I yes.
Something like that. Do you, have you ever tried to talk to him about it? Left the door open for him to kind of ask questions? Why do you think he doesn't want to? Is he embarrassed? Do you think he's worried
I don't
about what you
know,
might
and
have said and
I
he
don't
won't
know,
ask?
and I no,
He's
I
never
don't.
talked to
Again,
he's never talked to your kids about it. He's never said, "Oh, mom wrote that book." Blah blah
oh,
blah.
I don't know. I mean, again, I don't even want to. I want to respect, his everything. We have such different lives now. We've been apart for like almost 10 years. So
Hmm.
my story is my story. Yes, he plays a role in it. Of course, he had a big role in my life, but we've moved on and he's moved on and he's happy. He's in a great place and that's great. And so I don't need to think about that anymore. I think at the beginning I really, really, really wanted to talk to him about it because when
Right, because it's
I'd gone
fresh and
through
it's
stuff.
new and it just
Well,
came out.
well,
So you want
it's
to
not even
see.
that. It's not even that. It's because I had been in such a haze for so much of the marriage. I had gone through so much stuff, and I was quite weak. And I was stronger after, and I was more clear-headed. And I really just wanted. I felt there was a big power dynamic with us, and power difference and I was feeling much more on level ground and I just wanted to have a face to face and just again not confrontational at all.
Hmm.
Two people who've known each other for a really long time and had gone through stuff and I really wanted to just talk about stuff. But I realized again that's what I want, but that doesn't mean I'm
And that's
entitled
what he
to it,
wants. Yeah, or what
and
somebody else wants. Yeah,
yeah, so I wrote it and that was important to me. And again, he plays a role, but he's certainly not the whole book. And he's got his thing and that's it. And I respect that and that's it. And you move on.
that's it. That's it. You move on. Well, moving on from the book, though, well, the time that we have, has it? It's been out for a while now. Has it met your expectations as far as people like strangers? The way it's sold, the way it's out there, it's still available. People can buy it in hardcover and or
Not
soft cover,
hardcover. They can read it
soft
soft
cover,
cover or it's
and in
an
PDF
audiobook still
audiobooks
on
too.
yeah,
So
on Audible.
do you narrate it?
I do. I do. I mean, it's got some errors in it because there's some problems with it, but I do. I'd love to do it again because I think when I was doing it the first, I've heard good things about it, even though there's some like mistakes in it. Um, but because people said it feels like I'm sitting and I'm telling them my story. But I think when I did it, it
Amazing.
was still pretty new, and I wasn't super comfortable because there are parts I'll try to read again, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I wrote that. Like, what was I thinking? That's craziness. And so reading it, like writing it is one thing, but reading it out loud, you're kind of like, holy crap. Like it's just so I'd be a little more comfortable now reading it. So I think I would do it better. But yeah, it's still an option. But yeah, you can get it on Amazon or Indigo or different bookstores. You
That's
can get it.
cool. I'll
No, I,
put
I do. I still do get um I get people who message me from all over. And what was very cool was when people say, what's your target audience? I think people
mhm.
expect me to say women of a certain age or and I hear from all ages. I hear from, I've heard from men, I've heard from women, I've heard from, the thing is my story, the details of my story are going to be different than other people's. Um, they're going to be unique. However, the themes are pretty universal. So everybody's gone through loss. They've relationship stuff, self-esteem stuff, some illness stuff. Like there's things, there's something in it for everybody. There's a
Yeah,
trauma for everyone. So
that's why I do
people
the
can relate to
podcast.
different things,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so I've had different people come to me and say they relate to different things, and I've had a lot of
Mhm.
people who say to me they had to put it down for a bit to just kind of deal with their own stuff before they pick it up again. And that was the biggest surprise for me, because as I said earlier, I thought, okay, I found out it was going to be published. That's great, but that means people are going to read it, and like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And every time somebody says to me, I ordered
Because
your
you wrote it
book,
like nobody was gonna read it.
well,
So
you don't think about, like,
yeah,
you don't think about so,
yeah,
and then you start going, what did I write? What did I write? And,
yeah.
and then you're going,
I
holy
forgot this
crap, I
part.
can't believe I wrote that. Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, so whenever somebody says to me, still to this day, I ordered your book, I always say, oh, you're gonna learn a lot about me. More than you ever,
That's
probably
the
more than you
idea.
think you want to.
Yeah.
But I thought if I was gonna write it, I was gonna write it, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I could have left stuff out that made me look bad, and I didn't, because what would be the point of that? So,
Right.
there's stuff that isn't super flattering. And yeah, I knew people were gonna have their own opinions, but I really did think more people would turn away from me, and that was not what happened at all. I had most people, like I've had people at work or different people who I didn't know that well who read it, who just say to me, can I just hug you? Can I just give you a hug? Which is the nicest thing, because they saw the
They
vulnerability, they
connected
saw
with
this
it. They
this
found
and the
something they
sadness.
didn't
They
know
didn't
about
they
you.
didn't well, they didn't see. I was seeing, oh, I'm gonna look so horrible, but they weren't seeing that. They were seeing the losses that I had,
Right.
I had one woman say to me, she goes, I knew her a million years ago, like elementary school, and hadn't seen her since. And she said, I just felt sad you were so alone. Like you were so alone for so much of my life and through a lot of things. And I'm like, oh God, yeah, and so that's why I say it to anybody, even if you're not gonna get it published. I think writing your story is really amazing, because in writing it, even before it came out, there was a shift in me, because like I had said, I had carried a lot of shame and a lot of guilt for things. And writing it out, it takes it from like your head and your heart and it puts it on this
Right.
paper. And
It's
I was
so
able
therapeutic and
to, it
so
it is, but
helpful.
it was very freeing, because I looked at it and went, oh wait, okay, now I understand why I did that, or why I said that. I'm like, of course, like I was beating myself up for that. No, I had every right to feel that way. Look, there's some things that I still will never feel okay about, like in the sense of like they weren't the right thing to do. I won't hate myself for it anymore, though. I'll never be like, not a big deal. No, big deal, big deal.
Hmm.
Anytime I hurt somebody else, I will never be okay with that. But I understand it. I'm not excusing it, but I understand,
But you're not maybe
nothing
holding it on,
no, because nothing I ever
carrying
did
it
was from
around
a
with you
bad
so
place.
much. Yeah.
Right. And well, you'll do better.
You'll
But it
learn.
was really important for me. It was a big step in letting go of that shame and then putting it out there. There's something, there's something so liberating about once you do put so much of yourself out there, anything else you do is no big deal. Like,
Right.
I talked about it. Anyone who knows me a little bit knows that I dance everywhere. So music
Really?
is everything to me.
Didn't
I know,
know.
shocking.
You
So
should put that out there.
I know, but that's my joy. And I say sometimes I dance with life, sometimes I dance at life. When
Mm,
life is good, I'm dancing with it. When things are heavy, I'm saying, screw it, I'm
dance it
gonna just
away.
dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, life is tough, and you got to find the things that make you happy. And if I'm walking down the street, I'm gonna dance. And I teach some dance classes, and I walked into a class today, And this woman said to me, she said, I left the gym the other day. She goes, I was driving to the pharmacy and stopped at a red light, and who do I see dancing across the street? She goes, like, I was honking, you didn't even hear me because the music, and I'm dancing across the street. But it's I could do that because I wrote a book where I talked about stuff like, so
Yeah.
that's
Real
gonna
stuff.
embarrass me, real
Yeah.
stuff. So that's not gonna embarrass me. You know what I mean? And then,
Yeah.
or what I say, or again, not to be rude or hurt anyone, but just stuff about me. I mean, it is tough. I will say this. It can be tough to meet new people. That could be tough
They're a
because you just have
loss.
to, well, but it's tough because
I
it's
understand what
like,
you're saying. People might.
well, you can't, I can't, I can sometimes, but there have been plenty of times when I'll meet somebody, and if they've, like, somebody new, if they've Google imaged me or they, whatever, they'll find a million things on me because I've just done
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm meeting them and I know nothing and they know so much,
It's a
and so
very
it's
imbalanced little
very imbalanced
yeah,
because they also know me up until 2016, right?
right.
And so and they're depending on who they are, different parts of my story are what they're going to,
Yeah.
how
And
they're
there's
going
a
to look at
10-year
me.
drop after that. So they're expecting maybe 2016 Marcy too, which
Right,
uh,
right. Or even, the
or
2000s, if that's the one they
before.
liked,
Yeah. Yeah. I
exactly.
like this
So
part of the book. I hope she's still like this,
I've
preconceived
had that. I've totally
notion.
had that. Totally had
Yeah.
that. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a bit, when
Well,
you have a book, when people go, "Oh, what's your book called?" That's always, it's still something
the
it's a
Marcy
tough
story.
thing to say. But to say,
Just call it that.
the good
Yeah.
stripper is like, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. Well, you don't understand. Well, clearly I'm walking down the wrong streets because I don't get to see all the action. But
I know.
I appreciate you walking down this street with me today, and doing this conversation, this podcast. Easy for me to say. I'm lost for words. I got to write a book.
Well,
Marcy,
thanks for asking me. It was great. I'm
for
glad we finally
sure.
did it.
Next time we'll have more. There's so much more about you than just the book, of course. We can get into some more things, but I wanted people to get this idea of you and learn about this and your music taste so they can check everything out you do. And I'll put a link to this up and people can go
Perfect.
buy it on Amazon and learn more about
Excellent.
the Marcy story, aka, I
There you go.
guess, the good stripper.
There you go,
Yep.
stripper. A soccer mom's memoir of lies, loss, and lap dances. I like that.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you,
Thank you.
Marcy.
Thank you.